after the whole Rollins attempted a Rollins beatdown, we had a kind of a look back at the Authority backstage, and they announce Ambrose versus Kane and Orton versus Cena for the night. And then we have our Intercontinental Championship match, Ziggler-Miz.
Yeah, another solid championship bout between these two guys. I think they've had quite a feud that I've thoroughly enjoyed, even with what some people may deem to be a ridiculous angle with the whole stun doubles and stuff, which I think has been executed beautifully as far as angles like.
Oh, I love it. I think it's been great,
yeah.
man.
Oh yeah, I mean when you got a guy like Damien Sandow, who I really feel like this gimmick I think proves to me that perhaps even I've underrated him a little bit, because he's just been phenomenal in this. And yeah, you've got Miz, who I think has found just the perfect gimmick for him, and you and I have been so praiseworthy of his work since adopting this gimmick. And Ziggler, it's Dolph freaking Ziggler. I mean, what do you think I'm going to say? So yeah, this is a great bout between the two of them.
You know what I'm beginning to notice, John?
What's that?
The WWE's creative team is starting to use Ziggler as leverage to keep people watching.
You know what? I think you may be onto something, because I think they know how over Ziggler is, and I think he's another one that I think he has.
And more specifically, how over he is with the internet.
Yes, definitely, because I felt so bad for him after Night of Champions, because he tweeted like this apology. He's like, "I'm sorry. I wanted to make the Intercontinental Championship mean as much to you as it does to me, and I let you down." And I'm like, "Oh, Dolph," right at the heartstrings, like, yeah. Damn. But that's why I marked out when we actually got a title change after a great back and forth encounter. Yep. Let me just say for the record that once again, Ziggler's selling ability was fantastic, because he sold the knee very well. After Miz got a figure 4 on it, and he really worked it over. It actually made me think that Miz is going to retain again. But if there was one detriment or one nitpick, I should say, that I had with this match, the skull-crushing finale, I think, has been officially downgraded. Because Ziggler kicked out of it yet again in this matchup. He did kick out of it the first time, I think, at SummerSlam, and then he kicks out of it again here. So Miz has two finishers, the figure 4 and the skull-crushing finale, both of which, at least against Dolph Ziggler, don't really seem to work. So, it kind of makes you wonder, is Miz going to unveil something new sometime soon? Or do they just want to go with the line that Ziggler's just that tough and he has that much grit? Regardless, it is a bit weird to see the skull-crushing finale in this position. But yeah, I thought it was a great back and forth. It mirrored the closing moments of Night of Champions, because Mizdow tried to get involved. He ate a super kick just like last night. Miz tried getting the tights, but the only difference being Ziggler was able to reverse the pressure, and then he used the tights on the Miz, and he gets the 3 count. And Ashton, I want to phrase this correctly. Miz made history with this matchup. As you pointed out to me after it all went down.
Well, I mean, I hate to be hyperbolic, but I'm pretty sure he did. He actually, I don't know if he was the first ever, but as far as I know, he became the first ever guy to win and lose the same championship within 24 hours twice.
And you would be correct on that, because I read on NoDQ and other places that, yes, he is the first. This is history in its own right, because the first time was with Wade Barrett, who I think was still Bad News Barrett at the time, and now Dolph Ziggler here. So, it's crazy, because if anybody remembers me and Ashton's preview predictions for Night of Champions, one of my biggest beliefs as to why Miz is going to regain was that I felt like WWE loved to see the heartbreak of Dolph Ziggler, loved him as that sympathetic character who you just would always rally behind. And even I didn't anticipate Dolph getting the championship back so soon. But now that this has happened, I do hope they let Dolph go on a legitimate run, because if anybody can make the Intercontinental Championship fun again and make me engaged in its programs, it is Dolph Ziggler. Like, him and that championship, considering its past lineage, are just a perfect union. And I hope WWE realizes that. So.
Yeah, I think when I said leverage, it's like one of those things where whenever something happens that is going to really tick off the IWC, they do something like this with Ziggler and reel everyone back in. Like WrestleMania, what was it, 29, I want to say? Whatever year it was that Dolph cashed in and had the huge pop in the post-WrestleMania Raw crowd. That WrestleMania, I feel like, was that this year or last year? That was last year, right?
That was last year because WrestleMania 29 was
Alberto Del Rio. That was when frickin' John Cena beat The Rock for the WWE title, and everyone was so. And of course, Punk lost to The Undertaker that show, and just all this stuff happened that ticked the IWC off. And then the following night, boom, Ziggler cashes in, and all of a sudden, everybody that stopped caring the night before is reinvested. And now this time, everyone was so ticked off that John Cena made Brock Lesnar look human. And everyone was like, oh, I'm done watching. Me and my friend Mark aren't going to watch this week. And then Dolph Ziggler wins back the Intercontinental Championship and everyone's reinvested. Like, the WWE basically knows how to keep people watching, even if it's only just barely.
Oh, absolutely. And as far as Dolph goes, I mean, you and I have sung his praises for the longest time, so I don't want to go on and on about it. But he is that talent that I think could do the Intercontinental Championship a tremendous service. I loved his Fallout segment. He even joked because he had the replica belt, and he's like, I am the first ever unified. Nah, I'm just kidding, and he tosses it aside. And he says, this wasn't my victory. It was our victory. And I don't know. Dolph is probably the only one, too, who could go for some semi-corny or cheesy lines. And it does impact me. Like, if it was a Cena or anybody else, I'd probably groan. But I don't know. There's something about Dolph where even when he delivers lines like that, there's a certain authenticity to it because I really believe that he means it. And I just love the guy, and I wish him the best. And I do hope he goes on his run. I think him and Bad News Barrett could have some phenomenal matches over that belt together. So I hope he hangs on to it long enough for that to happen. And, yeah, I'm just really glad to see him now as a 3-time Intercontinental Champion, so good on him.
Absolutely. Great segment here for Dolph. I definitely need to try and check that Fallout segment because that sounds hilarious. But yeah, I didn't see it as things are right now. After Dolph wins the championship, we go to another match right away almost. Bo Dallas versus Jack Swagger, and this was about the closest thing that I had to being a second heat of the night, dude.
Yeah, Bo Dallas I don't think has any steam right now. He had this little series with Jack Swagger. Again, lost one match on Raw. As you guys heard on SmackDown Recap, Bo did win the second match, and they even showed the closing moments of it on this Raw. He hung Swagger up on the ropes, with the throat, and then was able to hit the running Bo Dog and get the pin. And then we have this third match, and it was a good match. Like, I do think these two have chemistry with each other, but Bo Dallas, again, falls to the Patriot Lock, and he taps out. And then, Zeb pretty much throws it in Bo's face after the match, saying, well, guess what? You just tapped out to Jack Swagger. And, it's a shame because we're talking about, we just talked about how Dolph Ziggler regained the Intercontinental Championship. And a couple months ago, if we were in a similar situation, I would have said, oh man, I would really love to see a Bo Dallas Dolph Ziggler feud for the Intercontinental Championship. But I don't even feel like Bo has that credibility anymore, at least in my opinion. It's just really a shame the steam that he's lost because I felt like this could have been one of the better mid-card heel acts, had it just been allowed to do the kind of stuff that he did on NXT. This is just another act where I feel like on NXT, he was a legitimate main event act or upper mid-card act, depending on what you wanted to do with him. And here on the main roster, it's kind of like he's just there, At least that's just me. Maybe you have a differing opinion, but that's just kind of the vibe I've gotten from Bo Dallas in the last month or so. So.
Yeah, he's basically cannon fodder for Jack Swagger at this point.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything unique on his own. He's just kind of using Jack Swagger's momentum to try and kind of cash in on that because Swagger had the whole thing going on with Rusev, and then Bo Dallas talked about how he let down, 318 million people or whatever it was, and it's like the WWE doesn't realize that Jack Swagger was never over to begin with, and the only reason he ever got reactions was because people weren't cheering for him. They were cheering for whoever the guy was across the ring from frickin' Rusev.
Right.
And it's like they're trying to convert that into Bo Dallas heat, and it's just not going to work.
You know what? It almost makes me want to do just a rebooking of Bo Dallas, because I don't even know if them giving him an undefeated streak for that little bit was the right way to go. Because in one way, I can understand why they did it with the whole gimmick and everything. Like, oh, look at what you can achieve if you just Bo leave. So in that vein, I get it. But in another way, like, he just doesn't seem to fit that kind of mold. Because with Ryback, it was totally understandable. I mean, look at the dude, you know? But with Bo, I almost wonder if maybe they should have just presented him a different way. Yeah, you know, like maybe instead of like going on this win streak, like, yeah, he'd win matches, but they wouldn't make a big stink about it. And rather where there would really be emphasis would just be, you know, his promos and his interactions with other people, which is also kind of what they did. But I felt like that was more of a secondary thing rather than at the forefront. I don't know. I hate to say it, but I almost feel like they just botched the overall introduction of Bo Dallas into the main roster. And I feel like it could have been so much more than what it has amounted to at this time. So it's just a shame, because again, I would have thought that he would have been feuding for the Intercontinental Championship at this point with the momentum that he had, you know, with the whole thing. But now, again, as you said, he's just cannon fodder for whatever, for Jack Swagger specifically, but I'd say for whoever the hot mid-card babyface would be at the time. I could see when guys like Sami Zayn and Adrian Neville come up, Bo being cannon fodder for those guys, which is understandable.
Which is hilarious, because we might as well just do it on NXT at this point.
Exactly. So it really is a shame, because you and I really came around on Bo Dallas and saw how great he could be, you know, when allowed to do his own thing. And this is just another reason why I think NXT is superior to the main roster, because that one segment they did where Zayn unmasked him when he was trying to portray Mr. NXT, and they did that whole thing about him being ejected from the building. That one segment on NXT has been better than anything Bo has done on the main roster since he debuted.
He's touching my bum!
You leave! You know, like,
I'll
Bo,
call a real cop.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll do it.
Like the closest thing Bo did to an entertaining segment was when he introduced to Swagger the people that he let down, and that just paled in comparison to that NXT segment. And the one where he had to leave NXT initially, like, I normally don't use this kind of language, but you people stink.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad, Ashton, because I don't want this to be another, oh my god, NXT is the best, watch NXT, you know, segment.
But that's what it is.
But that is what it is, but I think only because it's true. You know, I don't think this is a case of John or Ashton.
Well, it wouldn't turn into that kind of segment so quickly if it wasn't true.
Exactly. You know, I don't think this is us, and mainly me, because I'm the one going on the tangent, you know, being hyperbolic. I just think it's because you and I have watched NXT for so long now, and we know how it works, that when we see how the main roster does business with these same guys, kind of makes you want to facepalm. So feel bad for Bo, but Swagger gets the win, and you know, it just makes you wonder, will this have any implications for any mid-card championship, or will these guys just continue to be adrift looking for something to do? I guess only time will tell.
That right there, that is the correct answer. That last one said.
There you go.
All right, up next, the announcers mention Eric, the actor of Howard Stern fame, apparently recently passed away. I honestly have no clue how this is relevant. I'm sure that the WWE has a reason for mentioning it, though, so I won't question it. Same thing with like the whole Joan Rivers thing. Like, I don't know why that was relevant, but apparently they had reason to, and it turned out that she was a big part of WrestleMania too. So like I said, I just didn't want to touch that.